right, good morning, everybody. I've got the piece which is introduce the company, and then I'll introduce some of the work that we've done. Hello, is that better? In the back. Okay. A lot of people, obviously you see our vehicle in the back, the General Wheeler, and most people are walking by believing that most of what we do is veteran support and take care of veterans, which, fantastic. We'd love you to think that, and because it is what we care about and what we do, and that's why we started the company. But actually the work that we do for the government and supporting the REF2 is all hazards response, information technology, logistics and warehousing, and innovation and engineering. And really in the a picture tells 1,000 words category, these are all pictures of things that we've done. So that's our person in training, or us training. That's work we do with our friends over in Agility related to tactical data links. That's our warehouse and our veteran driving a forklift. That's a lab that we were fortunate to be a part of the delivery team to the REF. And again, you can sort of see the car and we all look skinnier, but you know, that's our team of folks that goes out and supports veterans and does an advocacy ride from the Pentagon up to Gettysburg every year. So it's near and dear to our heart. And so again, if everyone comes away thinking that that's the important thing, which is taking care of veterans, you know, we're all about that. Again, real quick, things I wanted you to know, because I have the shortest part, which is really the introduction, is that if you heard Colonel Sliwa brief yesterday how the REF does acquisition, a lot of it is headspace in government contracts, and we're one of those companies that's very blessed to have some very nice contract vehicles where that's what we get paid to do, providing innovative solutions, both services and products all over the Army, but also government-wide to and all the major integrators. So again, as Colonel Sliwa stressed, one of the most important things is the integrity of the process, and that the REF maintains their ability, and everyone else, their procurement ability by doing things the right way and fully compliant with all the regulations, of which we all know there's many as government contractors. And so, you know, we're ISO certified, all our quality systems and management systems are compliant, DCAA, DSMA, et cetera. We are an 8A service disabled veteran, which veteran-owned small business, which certainly helps. And lastly, that last bullet, which goes to the heart of the vehicle, you know, we decided, my brother and I, Bill, who's a disabled veteran out of the Air Force, that we wanted to hire veterans and do something right. And when things went right for us, we were going to do something right for others. And so to date, we've been able to donate or support veterans, charities, and their families to a little over $750,000 on a goal of $1 million by the time we get out of the 8A program. So, you know, obviously we feel good about that and encourage others to do the same. But innovation. Who was General Wheeler? Why is there a car called the General Wheeler behind you? And I say at the front that innovation is important, but as we may have also heard, it's not always popular. People don't always want the innovation that is being promoted, and sometimes by the people that have the power to do it. But General Wheeler was not only our grandfather, but he, as you may have read, was the longest serving chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in history. And one of the major innovations that he was a part of was he led and championed the M16. And as again, some may know, the M16 was pretty unpopular at the time because there was great concerns in Vietnam that it jammed, and it jammed in bad situations where it was bad to have it jam, obviously, and so it was not popular. It was being pressed forward. And he came up with the idea, which I'm sure, again, undoubtedly veterans in the audience you've seen, the forward assist that would unjam the bolt. And based on that innovation, it led to it going on to be, you know, the fielded rifle for the Army officially in the entire military in 1969. And the decision at that point that was made to go forward, believing that innovation would solve the problem, again, didn't make everyone say, oh, awesome, we're getting the M16. It was, I think, quite the opposite. It was, how was this decision made that when we know there's all these problems? So again, I'd say it's not always popular at the time, but it turned out to be obviously something that has had a legacy that's still going to this day, and the statistics of over 8 million fielded weapons, that over 90% are still in operation, kind of says it all. But so that's just the smallest bit about Veteran Corps. We want to talk about not us, but you know what we've been able to do to help support warfighter requirements, some for the REF, some for others. But a particularly interesting project that we had was what Wes Brin's going to talk about. And so, Wes, you want to take control?
Got it.
And, tell them what we did. Uh-oh.
Does that work? Everybody can hear me? Thanks, John. So I'm here to talk about a couple of projects that we've done here recently. But you know, starting off, companies like Google. You think innovation. If you haven't seen their nap time chair, you should go by and check it out. I was lucky enough to do so. Apple, think innovation. What are they doing? How are they doing it? Their first mouse. Now, their first mouse was actually invented by a company called IDEO. And if you haven't taken a look at IDEO and what they do with design ideas, manufacturing, and how they put together their teams, I'm going to show us a quick video of what they trained us in doing for design thinking on and how to go about doing a co-creation event or crowdsourcing event to really harness the online community and outside community of an event to be able to come up with what starts off as a good idea and moves on to a great idea. Flip phone did it. Starbucks has a company or an online idea community where they do the same type of co-creation and crowdsourcing. So every month they take a good idea from this website and publish a new product or a new flavor or a new, many different ideas. So the idea of crowdsourcing and co-creation now, whether it's government, Army, or industry, you can start seeing it ramp up, right? Concord just came out with an article 3 weeks ago on CNN where they just raised $180 million to get their airplanes back in the air. Same idea. And so now we're starting to dabble with it in the government. How do we help out requirements? How do we co-create together to get requirements done, to rapidly realize our requirements faster, not through normal acquisition periods, but getting people together to really understand how to make that requirement better from the soldier downrange. The Air Force started doing this as well with three main ideas: search and rescue, the mind of a quadrotor, and GPS navigation tracking launching. So they also built a website of an online community and and how to harness those people. I think after a year they had about 15,000 people that were all on this website being able to come together on these three categories and offer ideas and solutions, designs going into projects. And there's a lot of lessons learned that we'll talk about here in just a little bit that we learned on programs as well. But really what I want to kind of start off by showing is how IDEO taught us to build a design thinking team, and then what we did to take design thinking into the Army.
Tonight,
Oh, you can stop it then. It's okay. It didn't start.
dive.
So I'm sorry for the video. We were trying to mess with it a little bit earlier, but basically it goes through a 30-second piece with telling you how IDEO.
Or
Just hit pause.
innovation.
There you go. And then you can go back out to the other. So IDEO talks about how do they bring together a team. And their teams there, when they're thinking design thinking and when they want to attack a problem, and if you haven't seen the deep dive from them, please go out and watch it. It's only about 13 minutes or so. Their teams consist of PMs, Stanford PhDs, shrinks, teachers, mall shopping attendants, things like that, because everybody has a different picture or understanding of what requirements are and how you come together. And so all of those ideas are good when you bring together a group of people to solve problems. And that's kind of what we did for the Army at the REF, and we'll go into that right now. So understanding where the sweet spot of success is, right? So it's right in the middle of people, tech, money. Everybody has tech, everybody has money. Maybe not so much the government right now, but we're kind of getting into there. But it really starts with people. It starts with bringing the people together, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a focused piece or all engineers must sign this, be assigned to this team and solve this problem, because really the resources that you bring in and the people that you bring in, no matter what their walks of life or background are can contribute to solving a problem in any situation. And that's kind of what design thinking is and proves, and that's why people are using it. So the quick process, and just real quick, is you define, you learn, you ideate, you test, you go back, you reflect, you integrate, you go back, you learn some more, you ideate some more. It's all about the 51% solution. You get there and then you start iterating off of that design. That's what the Army's known for, at least where I kind of grew up in the ref, is get the 51% solution out and iterate from there so that the soldier can get something right away and not have to wait till his next rotation to have a product in, right? So that's kind of what we're doing and how we're looking at this. Again, you kind of go from process to process, you reflect, you go back and integrate, you define, and you start the process over again, and you continue to iterate, you continue to learn, you continue to bring in teams and collaborate together. And then you get the aha moment. So this is just one picture of a room of people ideating together. They're collaborating together. It's a bunch of people together. We did a leadership development piece internally to Veteran Corps, where you're just throwing stickies up on the wall. You're trying to figure out good ideas, and I'm sure all of you have been a part of that as well. So the co-creation process, this goes into what we did with the U.S. Army Rapid Equipping Force. Now, this was a pilot trial piece. There's a lot of lessons learned to it. There's a lot of good things, a lot of bad things. But we'll kind of go through just what the process was for co-creation with the Army, what we did, and some basic statistics, and then we can answer any questions afterwards. So co-creation is a two-way communication between people. So if you think of crowdsourcing and you think of like Concorde raised $180 million to put their airplanes in the air, but that's all they did. They raised money and then they took everybody's money and they went off and did airplane great things, right? So co-creation is bringing two people together or a team of people together and continuing to ideate amongst that team. Rather than just taking your idea and run, we continue to build on those ideas of the team. No matter where that comes from, but it's a co-creation, it's a two-way communication. And so what we did is we set up a web page in order to house it. So if you remember a couple slides back, the Air Force set up a website. They had 15,000 people in 6 months, and that's where they went. We did the same thing, called armycocreate.com. The link is inactive right now, but we set it up for this one pilot program. And so it had 3 major sections. It had a section where you could, input ideas, and anybody could input an idea. You had a like or dislike feature, and then it had comments after that. So you could talk about what that idea was, how to make it better, where to take it from. The next logical step after an idea is to design it. And so the next page is the design page. You can click on the designs page, and once an idea is formulated enough at a certain point or has a certain number of likes, what we did as a community manager was take it into the designs ideas so that it was able to come with an engineering drawing, a design, and really start to figure out, will this work? How do we make it? Can we 3D print it and try it out and see where it goes from here? So this was another page, and you can see there's five small ideas up there. I think at the end you'll find that we did 41 different designs off of 160 different ideas and 2 projects. So then obviously the next step from a design is sponsoring a project. And in this case, we sponsored 2 projects. One of them was selected by the government, and one of them actually just came out of a good idea from a soldier in Korea, and we'll get to that here real quick. But part of, once you get into there, the back end of that is being able to have people support that. And that doesn't have to be a lot of people. As you can see up here, myself and 5 others were the community managers of this piece. But that was for over 1,300 people. You can have a lot more people as community managers. You can have a lot more people and figure out how your ideas page works. You really don't have to have a whole lot of people supporting it, but you do need to have somebody that's being able to filter through exactly where the comments are going, how the ideas filter from design to project, and where it's going from there. So you can see, somebody came up with an idea up at the top, and then one of our community managers was able to filter through what that idea was and then have 3 or 4 or 40 different other comments on that idea that ultimately took it into a design. So our growth by our community, you can see as we went through the beta stage of the website launch, it really starts to hit when you really start to work on your communications plan. So communications is obviously big. I can't put up, a website design out here or a website out on the internet and just understand that 100,000 people are going to come out to there, because they're not. You really have to do some marketing and some understanding. And so we had Wired Magazine come out and do a story on us. We had the Army Times come out and do a story on us. There were some big events, and you'll see some spikes and why that is really important in the plan. But you can see how our community kind of grew, and it tapers a little bit as well through different communications plans and through different makeathons that we ran. One of the key pieces of what I was talking about earlier of how there's a lot of people that can come into the community. So we did a independent analysis and found out that when you log in, you obviously tell yourself you're an engineer, your industry, academia, military, whatever. But you can see from the pie chart, 11% of these people were students, 17% were active duty members, 30% were retirees, 11% were veterans, 12% were engineers. You had a community of people that were interested in what we were doing, who all came together and contributed in the community. And that was key to running your community and getting different perspectives from different walks of life on how to build your ideas and your designs. So obviously there's values in numbers. One of the things that we found out was for every 100 members, 10 of them will be active participants in the community, and out of those 10 people, you'll come up with one good idea that gets posted to the website. So as you think about growing your community, understand that ratio is pretty close to being correct. So for every 1,000 people, you might have 100 active members and 10 good ideas that come out of your website, and then what you do from that to advance it to designs and to projects is up to the community managers and how you're running your program. So here's what we were talking about with the communications plan. You can see different spikes on where the public launch was, and there was really hardly anything out there. Nobody knew what it was. To where the Army.mil Gizmag comes out, and there's a plus up of over 1,000 people in a day looking at it and finding out what it was. So it goes along with your communications plan. As we found out with the pilot, communications plan is really key. Press releases obviously go into that. You saw and we partnered with a company called Locomotors, which actually makes the Rally Fighter. And so they had a broad outreach to a lot of magazines, Wired Magazine, different things like that. And I mean, they were getting 34,000 hits on their website for what we were doing for Army Co-Create, which was good, but you can see how the communication plan really plays a vital role in what we want to do. So the next logical step after you take an idea to a design to a project is you have to build it. And so a lot of people around crowdsourcing and co-creation are calling them hackathons. We called it a makeathon because the maker movement, we really started moving towards, how do we integrate this program and project into something that's good for the Army. And so what we did is we went down to Fort Benning, Georgia, pulled 20 soldiers out of the MCOE, and we're able to teach them how to weld, plasma cut, solder, cut, rip apart different things and put them back together based on the project that we selected. And I'll talk about one of the projects, maybe not the main one, but one of the projects on kind of how that got put together and what we did. So not only did we do one makeathon, 4 weeks later we did a second makeathon because we needed to make sure that the product was finished up and what we were doing. And so it doesn't matter how many makeathons you have, just as long as you are able to get to the product that you're wanting to based off of what the community said they believe would fit the requirement. And so in this case, the government selected a modified ATV to harness a communications platform, and so that's kind of what we did. But let me talk about something else that we did at Makeathon 2. At Makeathon 2, not only were we in the middle of building and modifying this ATV, but we had a good idea that came in from Korea from a staff sergeant who's stationed there, a medical soldier who said, listen, when I'm bandaging up a soldier and he gets shot or cut or something happens, there's no way for me to hold in the wound so that he doesn't lose blood or anything else like that, and fiddle around with my scissors or my tape in my pocket. Let alone, once I get the tape out, can I rip the tape with one hand? And so back on our desk back here, and I'm sorry that I didn't bring it up, we have a prototype of what he built in an initial design, and all it really is a rapidly prototyped, 3D printed, and we made it out of aluminum now to make it a little bit more sturdy, tape dispenser out of his molly bag. And so now he truly has the ability to cut his tape with one hand, go in, put the gauze on, and one hand be able to stitch him up. It's a good idea, goes to the medical community. The Army has a lot of good idea programs, but this is where he chose to make it because of the press releases, because of the communication plan that we put out. This soldier didn't know about a plethora of other Army programs, but chose this one because people were doing something about it and building things on it. And that isn't to say that other programs don't build on it, because they absolutely do. I know we worked a REF Good Ideas portal when I was there, and there's a lot of good things that come out of that. So there's a lot of different avenues. He chose this one. So at the conclusion of what we built and the design and what we did, what we found is that the total number of registers in a matter of about 3.5 months, and it went down as the Makeathons came back on, but from after beta into initial press release through Makeathon 2, we found that we got 1,239 people onto the website. We developed 168 new ideas, 31 new designs, and the number of replies also on those ideas totaled almost 1,200 replies. So you can see how many good ideas we had really filtering in, and why it was good to get some good conversation going. So those are some of the actual numbers and what we did. A colonel told me last week, and when I'm asking for advice on how to brief and making sure that I stayed calm, things like that, he said one thing that we never want to lose is the ingenuity that our soldiers live and die by in theater, right? So there are a lot of different products in theater. We know that. We put them out there. I know Veteran Corps does. I know 5D Robotics does. There's a lot of people that put a lot of products into theater. But the ability of the soldier to modify some of that equipment on the fly to work in his fob or cop at the edge is imperative to him surviving. And to be able to do something like this, where he can get some good ideas or understand how to build something that will help him fight and win, is really key. So that's all that I have for you. Co-creation, it was a great event. We built a couple of really good things. A lot of the lessons learned, and I'll go through those with you real quick. One of the primary lessons learned for the Army, so I brought up Starbucks, you brought up Google has their own, Apple has their own. One of the primary pieces for the Army is we had to be very, very general in what we talked about for requirements, because it wasn't CAC enabled, it was open source. There was 1,200 people that came online. And so if we really want to talk about active Army requirements, and we all know that there's 3 things that make a requirement classified, right? But if we really want to talk about this, it has to be CAC enabled, which kind of filters in our focus groups and what we're going to do, and it might modify, the amount of people that are coming online. But there's other ways to be able to harness the ingenuity of the soldier on that platform through communications. But that's one of our big things that we learned, is that it needed to be CAC enabled. We didn't scope down the requirement too much. We kind of left it to the community and decided on the project later. So there was a lot of things for Army specific where we really wanted to focus in on that we didn't do in the pilot program, that we learned afterwards that would be good ideas for the next pilot program for another agency or a program in what we did. So I think I'll stop there and stop rambling, but I'm open for any questions on co-creation, on crowdsourcing, on what we're doing currently, and maybe where this is going. So, Bill? No questions? All right, Veteran Corps has the Rally Fighter right up back. We have a lot of good partnerships and relationships with a lot of companies. We are a GSA schedule holder. If we can help you guys out, we are more than willing and able. Please come visit us.
Thank you, Wes.
If I could just say thank you to Mr. Garland and to Dr. Jetty for giving us this opportunity. Really appreciate it. And last thing on crowdsourcing, the Rally Fighter is a crowdsourced vehicle. A Honda key opens the door, a Ford ignition switch turns the key, and a Chevy engine starts. Recipe for disaster. So not all ideas are good, but anyhow, please come by. Thank you.